Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you this evening about our highway service. I'll go through those in the same order that they've been given to me. For those who don't know, things have changed significantly over the last couple of weeks, where we've gone from LGR, local government reorganisation, and we've moved into a combined authority in relation to various different subject matters that Cumberland deliver. One of those is transport, one of those is highways, among other things like planning and education services in some areas. But mainly for this evening, we'll talk through the highways element of the new combined authority. Now, obviously, we haven't got a mayor yet. The mayor doesn't come into office until May 27. So the leaders of each council are acting as the leader for the combined authority for the next 12 months until we get a mayor. What does that mean? What that means is that all of highway funding is now sent through the combined authority. So that's highway maintenance, and that's also transport, so mainly bus. So the BSIP grant that we get for bus improvements. So it's passported through. For the next 2 years, we have a delivery plan that we've set out with the combined authority. So they will passport that funding through to each of the local authorities, being Cumberland and Westmoreland and Furness. What we've had to do to secure the funding is we've got a 4-year settlement on highways. It's the first time that we've had that. Normally we have a single year, which makes it difficult to plan. As part of the 4-year deal, we've had to put together a delivery plan that outlines the maintenance that we intend to carry out. So in relation to maintenance, what you'll see on the website, and we'll share this information with you, is you'll see a delivery plan that shows all of the work that we intend to do in the next 4 years. That's not an exhaustive list by any means, and it may well change depending on what happens throughout the year. If we have a collapsed highway, for example, that's not on the list, that would take priority over the 4-year programme, and we'd have to reflect that at the end of the year in regards to our budget. We use survey information. So if you imagine, for the want of a better description, an MRI scan of the highway, that scan tells us what the network is actually doing in foundation terms. So it tells us the condition of the highway, and it identifies where we need to focus our attention from a maintenance point of view. The highway in Cumberland is Cumberland's biggest asset. It's hundreds of billions of pounds in value. And the money that we get from government is never going to be enough to maintain it due to its size. So we have to be very careful about how we spend the money. So the Highway Board on Cumberland Council decided very early on in its first meeting that we would have an asset-led approach. That asset-led approach is where we use all the data, the scrim, deflectograph, visual inspections, reports from the public. We use them to identify where we spend our money. In relation to potholes, we actively encourage people to report potholes to the council through the website, not on social media, because social media does not fix potholes. We do directly, so report them. We have many tools in our toolkit to repair potholes. When you see a repair, it is always a temporary repair. It's not a permanent repair. So we make it safe. That is our primary goal, to have a safe network, and that's what the repairs are that we carry out. That repair then is added to a schedule for a permanent patch or a surfacing scheme through the methods that we've talked about. In relation to parking, our parking policy, we have two real areas that we look after: on-street parking, off-street parking. Off-street parking is obviously the parking, the car parks that were in the districts. They all come under Cumberland Council now, and I have a team of enforcement officers that go around both the on-street and the off-street parking areas, issuing or enforcing the parking regulations. They work hand in glove with traffic regulation orders. So our traffic team will dictate on-street parking through traffic regulation orders. And as part of that work, it identifies where we can and can't put parking spaces, and it identifies how those will be managed, whether it's a residential parking area or whether it's a disc zone of some description. We're continuously changing our traffic regulation orders. So every 4 years in council, all areas should get the opportunity to refresh, renew and change their traffic regulation order, which will help feed their parking issues in the local communities. In relation to transport, through the portfolio holder, Councillor Denise Rollo, we are not necessarily responsible for, but we have regular meetings in regards to transport for the north. We meet with rail in regards to the West Coast Line and the coastline. We also meet with bus providers such as Stagecoach, who provide the majority of the services that are not subsidised. So where there's a commercially sensitive or commercially viable route, somebody like Stagecoach can apply to the Traffic Commissioner to run that route. But what you've seen over the last year or so is Cumberland have managed to secure significant funding, 3.7 million last year, a little over 3 million this year, and continues for the next 2 years. For BSIP, they're referred to as BSIP, so Bus Improvement Grant. And what you've seen last year is 22 new subsidised bus routes that we put on as part of the service. Now they're run by 2 different companies, Stagecoach being one and Rias being the other, and they're subsidised services that have been identified from the comments that were made from the public. So we did a public consultation, and they outlined the routes that they wanted us to try and cover. Some of them have been really successful, and we're seeing huge patronage on them routes. Others aren't as successful. So we're reviewing those each year to look at whether or not we keep them in place or whether we make some changes. I think, Lorraine, there was another one that I've missed, have I?
You could just mention Cumberland Go, because that's a new offer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Cumberland Go is the brand that we've created that is all of the routes that have been subsidised by the council. What we've also got is rural mobility transport. And within the rural mobility transport, we bought 3 new buses that will do specific routes, and we can share that information, or you can look on our website. And what that does is it gives a specific route for a bus, but you can dial that bus in. If you live within 7 minutes of the route, the bus will come off the route and it will come and pick you up and then go back onto route. And it's a trial. It's nothing more than a trial. We're trying to understand from a local community point of view what is the best transport option. And in some areas, certainly in rural areas, a bus going round a specific route isn't always the best option. So we're looking and trialing other opportunities to try and put the best route on that we can. Message is very clear on bus: use it or lose it. If people don't use that bus, then we'll lose it. The challenge is that up until now, all of the funding for bus has been year on year. That gives us a difficulty of trying to get people to have confidence in that bus. So people are only going to come out of their cars once they're confident that the bus is regular and it's on time, and it's a pleasant journey and it's a good product that they're getting on. Now that we've got a 4-year settlement, that makes it a little bit easier to try and keep that bus consistent, and hopefully we can convince people to use it. I'll pause there, Lorraine, if you don't mind. I'm happy to answer questions.